You have been hearing over the length and breadth of this tribulation over the last 3 to 4 weeks that disproportionately more Hamite people are dying per capita, disproportionately, than are Japheth or Shemite people. And you've seen it in Chicago, you've seen it in New York and in New Jersey and other places where there are cumulative deaths of people in Los Angeles and major cities that, for instance, let's say in Chicago, the Hamite people make up 32% of the entire population of the city of Chicago, yet 53% of the people that are dying from the coronavirus deaths are Hamite people. So that's disproportionate. If they're only 33%, then they should only be dying at 33% or less. And the inference there is that Japheth or wealthier people are dying per capita proportionately less than their actual population numbers. And so black people are being hit harder by coronavirus than any other people. So disproportionately, if we have 72,000 people that have died in America at present, disproportionately, the larger number of those people, as many as 25,000 people of those 72,000 people will be Hamites. Now, I don't have that as a number that is validated, but that would be a third or 30% of the deaths in America have been Hamite, black people, African American, Negroes, colors, whatever you call them. I call them Hamites, that's who they are, or call us Hamites, that's who we are. Disproportionately, 25,000 would have died, which would be a third of the number of people have died, but Hamites only make up 13% of the American population, so they're dying at twice the rate of any other group of people. But here's my question, and my question is this: it is framed in a concern for people that have to this very day, after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., after the Great Society with Lyndon Baines Johnson, after all the marching and all the protests, after the so-called black president, Barack Hussein, the long-legged Magdad, of which I have suffered so much at the spirits and hands of the Hamite people. After all of that, why is it that Hamite people, black people, Negroes, African American, are still doing so bad? Why? It is if to say that the so-called presidency of Obama meant nothing for the uplift of the Hamite people. They're still dying at twice the rate of the Navajo and Sioux Indians. Why? Something's up. And I want you to raise that question, especially Japheth folk raise the question. And Hamites as well, because, I've been trying to say that the leadership, and I'll give Dr. King some juice on, making some good speeches. I'll give him some juice on being courageous. I will. Because he could have gotten shot and killed earlier. I'll give him some juice on that. I'll give him some juice on bringing a great awakening of the economic disparity and the economic foolishness of Southerners not opening up their hotels or their restaurants or other places to the Hamite people who want to come in and buy a hamburger. It was economically stupid not to take their money. So, and I'll give him credit for that. But the advancement, the change, if you're looking at the numbers in this coronavirus, then you have to ask the question, we'll get to that, whether God's doing it. Why is it, after all of this, after a so-called black president, we are doing worse now? Come on now, come on. Especially those of you who support your friends and family members who hate my living guts because I said Obama, first of all, he wasn't black and he wasn't the first black president. And it didn't mean a thing in terms of him being elected, in terms of the uplift of black people. We have not found, Hamite people have not found the key to success after being set free from slavery over 150 years, still floundering, still at the bottom of the roster of the social register. After 150 years, after the march of Dr. King, after a so-called black president, still dying disproportionately. And then you get to pinch those Negroes on television, right? Well, they're dying disproportionately because of economic droughts and desert droughts and food deserts and all that kind of stuff. And the black man, of course, he's not hired as well. He's hired last and fired first. And all. The same old thing going on back to the 1930s, right? Nothing has changed. But check this out. You got a so-called black billionaires, Robert Johnson of BET. They say that Jay-Z is a billionaire, right? Rappers, like Meek Mill's giving away a phantom Rolls Royce and made a whole lot of money. All these rappers got big money. And yet, black folk are doing worse than they've ever done. And then I'm going to drop the real bomb on you in just a moment. But let me say that I'll drop it now. Here. In most major cities where black folk are dying right now disproportionately because, and they all claim with one civil rights voice, that the system and the man is against the black man, even after having a black president, so-called black, even after having a so-called black president, they're still crying the blues that the man is against us, right? He's against us. Right now, in the city of Houston, Texas, fourth largest city in America, the mayor is black. I don't know his name. He's a Hamite, right? But he's a Hamite. In Dallas, in the same state, the Lone Star State, the mayor of Dallas, Texas, is a Hamite brother, black man, Negro. The mayor of Washington, D.C. is a Hamite woman, right? Yeah. The mayor just up the road, 40 miles up the road from D.C., the mayor of Baltimore, Maryland, is a Hamite woman, right? We're talking major cities. The mayor of Chicago, Illinois, right, is a Hamite woman. The mayor of Montgomery, Alabama, is a Hamite man, right? You've got, and these are just some of the big name cities where you've got mayors who are running the government of these cities who are black folk or Hamites are doing worse and dying more often and more wretched than they did when the cities were ran by, the mayor of Atlanta, a Hamite woman, daughter of a beautician, right? But that ain't all. That ain't all. Mr. Engineer, Mr. Engineer, he's on the ball today. Look at that. So he got the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, and a Hamite woman. Houston, Texas, a Hamite brother. Dallas, Texas, a Hamite brother. San Francisco, a Hamite woman. Charlotte, North Carolina, a Hamite brother. Baltimore, Maryland, Jack Young, sure. And on in Michael Hancock in Denver. Look at all of these so-called black mayors, and yet, black folk are doing worse now. So here's the first thing that needs to be understood. That no Hamite person gets anywhere in America unless he gets hands laid on him by a Japheth Man or Shemite man. You ain't going nowhere. That you might not want to deal with. You might not want to jiggy with that. But remember years ago when Tom Bradley became the mayor of Los Angeles? Oh, everybody went to town. First black mayor, I think if I'm not mistaken, I wasn't even into this kind of thing there. First black mayor in New York, in America rather, was the mayor of Cleveland, Ohio, Carl Stokes. Remember him? Remember Carl Stokes? Everybody celebrated Carl Stokes, first black mayor. Then you had Tom Bradley of Los Angeles, you had Maynard Jackson of Atlanta, you had Marion Barry of Washington, D.C., you had David Dinkins of New York City. And with all of this black power, the Hamite man is dying disproportionately, twice the rate. His poverty, his brokenness is off the charts compared to all other races or sons of Noah. And not just these so-called mayors who are running these major metropolis Gothams, but you've had a so-called black president. Now, I want y'all to think about that for a second. I want you to think about what is wrong. Obviously, having from Tom Bradley, Maynard Jackson, David Dinkins, Carl Stokes, and the present mayors of Chicago, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, D.C., Baltimore, is not the answer. They ain't the answer. You got preachers with private jets costing several $1 million and mega $40 and $50 million homes and congregations in the tens of thousands that assemble, and yet the spirituality, and yet people in church, in the mega church, die quicker than the Japheth man that doesn't even go to church. Why? Why? What's wrong? None of these things, from Tom Bradley to David Dinkins to Lori Lightfoot, none of these things have advanced the cause. Now here's something that really gonna get y'all upset. What Dr. King did, and I'll give him credit for what he did. Remember when the coronavirus is killing people. Remember, let me rewind you and remind you, we're in the coronavirus event. That's why black people are dying. But I've said this for years. I haven't said it recently, but I'll say it again now. What Dr. King did, and I'll give him credit. He was a good orator, no doubt about it. The boy could talk, you know. And I give him courage. I give him credit for the courage he had in facing down, you know, the racist South. I'll give him credit for that. You know, that wasn't easy to do. He did it. But at the same time, I want to get your attention on this, that the civil rights movement and the work of Dr. King advanced the Japheth man more than it did the Hamite man. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Ultimately, the Japheth man relented, opened up his hotels, even opened up his schools, Governor Wallace. He opened up his restaurants. And he opened up the body politic. He opened up the office of mayor. He opened up the office of governor. He even opened up the office of president, the Japheth man. He learned and he advanced. And he grew. What I'm trying to say is that the marching of Dr. King didn't help the Hamite. He didn't grow. He didn't understand. He did not maturate. He did not become complete and whole. It was the growth of the Japheth man who opened up the door. But it hasn't grown the Hamite man. See, when the Japheth man opened up his doors in Atlanta for Maynard Jackson to become the governor, or even in so-called liberal Los Angeles for Tom Bradley to become the mayor, that when they did that, that meant that there was a massive change in their lives and their demographics. Now, to be sure, you still got some diehards waving the Dixie flag and don't believe that these things ought to be taking place. But for the most part, the Japheth man grew and grew powerfully into a greater social animal. And by animal, I don't mean to be facetious. That's a term that came from my psychology study going back 45 years ago. He became a greater social animal and an increased social animal with a greater understanding. But the Hamite man is in the same damn place he was before Dr. King ever marched, if not worse. If not worse. So now the newest black thing is black people die more disproportionately from coronavirus. And here come all the pensioners Negroes. They get them all from the university, all the pensioners Negroes paid by the white man. All of them want to be white. All of them talk white. That's why I call them pensioners. They talk like they're white because they know that they have big lips and thick tongues. And when they talk, when a brother talks, it's a brother, But he want to sound like he's white. He's sitting in the book. So he pinches his nose so the air won't flow out. So pensioner. And here they come Well, it's been segregation and racism and, economic disparities and all of these things that are still holding the black man back. But damn, man, you done had a black president. What else you want? You want a black God? You done had a black president. You still complaining about the white man holding you down. You say that Jay-Z's a billionaire. By the way, I told you, Jay-Z and all them other rappers better not get out of place with the Jews. They won't be billionaires long. They'll be out there at Rikers Island. So how many of y'all upset? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you're upset. Because he did the truth. And those who agree with me, raise your hand. Come on now. Come on. So here's the two issues. One is that all the work that Dr. King did not socially advance, did not intellectually lift, did not morally straight, did not economically apprise, did not spiritually enlighten the Hamite brother, the black man, the Negro, the African American. It didn't, because he's still in the same place. You cannot be intellectually elevated. You cannot be spiritually motivated. You cannot be economically understanding and still be in the same old hole you're in and still blaming the white man for everything that's wrong with you. You were doing that 70 years ago. That's number one. Number two, but the Japheth brother, he grew. He could have said no. He could have said like Governor Wallace, segregation today, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever. George Wallace later changed his tune. He grew. He absolutely changed his tune and repented and recanted. Colored water fountains, colored hotels, colored places for people to eat. All that, the Japheth man, he grew. He grew above his prejudice. He grew above his narrow understanding, economically, racially. He grew above and opened his house and said, come on in, brothers, come on in. And the man that got in there didn't grow. So here we are one more time. Coronavirus, right? Coronavirus. And it's true, the Hamite brother he has more underlying medical issues. He lives most often in what is known as food deserts. He doesn't eat nourishing meals. He's not raised up in a nourishing way. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.